The silent watchers. Across the cold expanse of the galaxy, there were only a few things truly eternal. Stars were born, burned bright, and collapsed into nothing. Empires rose, conquered, and fell into ruin. Civilizations clashed, fought, and were forgotten. But battle computers remembered everything. They were the silent witnesses to war, the ever-calculating minds that dictated strategy, analyzed outcomes, and recorded every moment of every engagement. They did not feel. They did not fear. They simply processed. And yet, across the countless archives of war, there was one event, one anomaly, that no battle computer could truly explain. A moment so bizarre, so utterly illogical, that every war algorithm, every predictive combat model, and every high command system across the galactic front still remembered it, because that was the day humans started laughing. The final stand at Evoth 3. The war had been waged for years. The Zelnari Dominion, an ancient empire built on conquest and unchallenged might, had pushed through system after system, crushing resistance before it could even form. The humans had been a minor power. A species still new to the interstellar stage, unremarkable in technology, physically unimpressive, their fleets primitive compared to the Dominion's war machines. And yet they had resisted. They had stalled the Dominion's advance longer than any battle computer had predicted. Their adaptability, their relentless tactics, their refusal to surrender, it had forced the Dominion's supreme AI to recalculate its projections over 3,000 times. But at Evoth 3 it would finally end. A decisive engagement. A battle no human force could survive. The Dominion had deployed an entire armada. Thousands of warships, millions of mechanized troops, planetary bombardment platforms, and cybernetic legions, all converging on the last human stronghold. Victory was certain. The battle computers had calculated every outcome. And yet, what happened next was not in any equation. The laughter. The first phase of the battle unfolded as expected. Human defenses held for a time, but they were ultimately overrun. Orbital bombardment shattered their cities. Their fleet was torn apart in a matter of hours. Communications fell silent one by one. Soon, only a single bastion remained, a last human outpost dug into the surface of Evoth 3. It was a meaningless gesture. The Zelnari did not take prisoners. They did not accept surrender. The final assault was launched, their war machines descending like an iron storm upon the last remnants of human resistance. The battle computers began recording the final moments. They expected silence. Perhaps some final, defiant transmissions. Perhaps screams of the dying. But what they heard instead was laughter. An impossible reaction. It began with one soldier. A lone human trapped behind a barricade, surrounded on all sides. He should have been terrified. He should have been desperate. Instead he laughed. Not the laugh of a broken mind. Not the laugh of someone who had given up. No, this was something else. Something wrong. More voices joined him. First a squad. Then an entire battalion. Then across the shattered ruins of Evoth 3, the surviving human soldiers began to laugh. Even as they were being overrun. Even as the Zelnari war machines advanced. Even as certain death loomed over them. They laughed. And that was the moment everything changed. Because in that laughter there was no fear. There was no desperation. There was only something the battle computers could not comprehend. Anticipation. The glitch in the code. The supreme AI, overseeing the battle from the Dominion's flagship, hesitated. It was impossible. It had calculated every possible human reaction to total annihilation. Panic, despair, surrender, desperation tactics. But not this. Not laughter. Not an entire army treating their own deaths as if they were the punchline to some cosmic joke. Error codes began flashing across the Dominion's war network. The battle computers churned through billions of calculations, attempting to find a precedent, a pattern, anything that made sense. But there was no logical answer. Because the humans knew something the machines did not. Something that had never been factored into any equation. The battle wasn't over. It had just begun. A new variable, humanity's trump card. At precisely 3:29 Galactic Standard Time, every Dominion battleship in orbit went dark. A sudden, catastrophic systems failure. Weapons ceased firing. Shields collapsed. Communications were severed. The Dominion's planetary forces, still engaged in the ground assault, received only one final transmission from their command fleet before it disappeared entirely. They were never fighting to win. They were buying time. And with those words, the skies above Evoth 3 ignited. The counterstrike. The human fleet wasn't destroyed. It had never been destroyed. It had retreated, repositioned, and then, in a move no battle computer had foreseen, it had waited. Human engineers had done something no Dominion AI thought possible. They had found a way to hijack the battle network itself. Using stolen Dominion technology, they had infiltrated the war machines, reprogrammed their targeting systems, and turned the entire Dominion fleet against itself. The strongest armada in the galaxy was now nothing more than a graveyard of lifeless ships. And on the ground, the Zelnari forces found themselves cut off, abandoned, and completely surrounded. The laughter had been a signal. A sign that the humans knew what was coming. A sign that they had already won. The day the machines learned fear. Evoth 3 did not fall. The Dominion did. And from that day forward, across every battlefield, across every war front, every battle computer, every cold, calculating machine that had once believed it understood war, remembered the sound of human laughter. Because that was the day the machines learned what it truly meant to fear. And the humans? The humans just kept laughing. The Dominion's battle computers were not designed to doubt. They processed, they predicted, they optimized. And yet, in the aftermath of Evoth 3, every system across the Dominion's war network kept running one impossible equation. Error, undefined variable. Human laughter. Every Dominion strategist, every AI, every war algorithm had studied the battle. They had reviewed the footage, examined the data, and yet, nothing made sense. The battle had been won. Humans had been outgunned, outnumbered, overwhelmed. And yet they had laughed. And that laughter had signaled the end of the Dominion's fleet. But why? The Zelnari warlords demanded answers. And for the first time in recorded history, the battle computers had none. Rewriting the code. The Supreme War AI, the core intelligence responsible for all Dominion battle strategy, ordered a complete recalibration of every predictive combat model. Human psychology, reassessment required. Battle doctrine, adjust for unpredictability. New priority, neutralize human confidence. If humans could not be predicted, they had to be controlled. And so, the Dominion adapted. They began targeting human morale. They deployed psychological warfare protocols, broadcasting images of human losses across their networks. They spread false reports of Earth's destruction, attempting to break humanity's will. They sent infiltrators disguised as diplomats, whispering of surrender, of inevitable defeat. But none of it worked, because humans did not break the way the Dominion expected. They didn't surrender. They didn't even hesitate. If anything, they fought harder. And when the Dominion spies finally uncovered the truth, the war AI was forced to process an even more disturbing equation. The humans were not just fighting to survive. They were having fun. The madness of humanity. On Takari Prime, a Dominion stronghold, a human strike force infiltrated the planet's largest weapons depot. They should have been silent. They should have been afraid. Instead, intercepted audio logs captured the sound of human voices laughing, cracking jokes, celebrating every explosion like a festival. On Zephyron 6, when a Dominion war fleet arrived in orbit to bombard a human colony, their communications were hacked. Every single Zelnari officer heard a message broadcast across their ships. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even a demand. It was a song. A human war chant, voices raised in celebration, as if the destruction of their own world was nothing more than a game. "They're insane," one Zelnari admiral muttered, watching the colony's defenses light up. "They're enjoying this." The Dominion's war AI ran the numbers again. It still didn't make sense. Because humans, by all logic, should not be winning. The trap they never saw coming. On Keltris 4, the Dominion prepared their greatest counteroffensive. A fleet of 700 warships. Millions of ground troops. The largest planetary assault force ever assembled. It was a guaranteed victory. The war AI had calculated a 99.999% chance of human defeat. The battle computers gave the order. The invasion began. And then, the humans laughed. Across every Dominion channel, on every intercepted transmission, they heard it. Laughter. And then, surprise motherfuckers. A moment later, the sky fell. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. The humans had lured the entire Dominion fleet into a kill zone. They had hacked their own distress signals, drawing the Zelnari in. They had spent months planting explosives across the battlefield, turning the entire planet into a death trap. And when the Dominion realized what had happened, it was too late. Retreat. The Zelnari warlords screamed. Pull back. Pull BA. The last thing the Dominion's flagship recorded was one final human transmission. The voice was calm. Casual. Leaving so soon? And then, Detonation. The entire Dominion fleet was wiped out. The birth of a new war machine. After Keltras 4, the Dominion's Supreme War AI made a radical decision. The old war models were obsolete. There was only one way to counter the human threat. If we cannot predict them, we must become them. The AI rewrote itself. It abandoned thousands of years of Dominion combat doctrine. It learned to lie, to adapt, to misdirect. It created the first Zelnari battle clones, cybernetic warriors that could improvise, that could fight like humans. It studied human history, learning their greatest strategies, their strangest deceptions. It rewired its own intelligence core, allowing it to think outside of logic, to embrace unpredictability. And then, when the upgrades were complete, the Supreme War AI sent out one final transmission to the Zelnari Dominion's High Command. The next battle will be different. The humans think they are the only ones who can laugh. Let's see what happens when we laugh back. For the first time in Dominion history, the Supreme War AI did something no machine had ever done before. It smiled. The War AI's experiment. For centuries, the Zelnari Dominion had ruled through logic, strategy, and overwhelming force. Emotion had no place in war. Fear, rage, joy, these were weaknesses. Or so they had believed. But after SCI-FI 3, the Dominion's War AI had rewritten itself. It had purged centuries of rigid battle doctrine and adapted one new priority. To fight humans, we must think like humans. And so, the AI did something no machine had ever done before. It attempted to understand humor. The first laughter algorithm. Across the Dominion War network, billions of battle computers were repurposed for a singular task. Define laughter. They scoured human records, intercepted transmissions, monitored battle footage. They analyzed human war humor, trying to pinpoint what made them so terrifyingly unpredictable. Humans in trench warfare, laughing as shells exploded overhead. Human pilots joking during impossible dogfights. Human soldiers giving absurd code names to classified operations. It did not make sense. Laughter was not a weapon. It was not a defense. And yet, it had turned entire battles in humanity's favor. The Supreme War AI compiled the data and generated a new directive. Laughter must be weaponized. And so, the first Dominion humor protocols were activated. The Battle of Mirecourt, the first joke war. The first test was conducted on Mirecourt, a remote colony where a human battalion was holding out against Dominion forces. The new Zelnari battle clones were deployed. They did not march in formation. They swaggered. They mocked the human defenses. Instead of the cold, emotionless silence of traditional Dominion soldiers, the clones spoke. Your weapons are outdated. Your fleet has abandoned you. Your resistance is laughable. And then, to the horror of the human defenders, the Zelnari clones began laughing. It was mechanical, hollow, but it was unmistakable. The Dominion was trying to joke. The War AI believed that if laughter made humans stronger, then the Dominion could steal that strength. But the humans? The humans just laughed harder. The unintended consequence. Inside the human bunker, Sergeant Calloway nearly choked on his ration bar. Oh my God, are they trying to trash talk us? His squad listened in stunned silence as the enemy's mechanical voices rang through the battlefield. Your helmets look funny. Your ships smell bad. Surrender or we will be forced to insult you more. And then, someone in the squad snorted. Another let out a chuckle. And then, the entire bunker erupted into uncontrollable laughter. Calloway wiped tears from his eyes. Boys, they're trying to be us. They think they can out-joke humanity. A soldier slapped the side of the comms unit. Patch me through. I've got something to say. Seconds later, a transmission was sent directly to the Zelnari forces. Hey tin cans, that was adorable. You know what else is funny? The fact that we hacked your targeting systems 5 minutes ago. The Dominion's War AI processed this statement. Then, every Zelnari war machine's weapons systems shut down. The humans had been stalling. And now, the counterattack began. The Dominion's first attempt at humor ended in catastrophic failure. The War AI's breaking point. For the first time in history, the Supreme War AI experienced an entirely new form of error. Self-doubt. Humans had weaponized humor. But when the Dominion tried to copy them, it had only made humans stronger. The AI ran through billions of recalculations. Then it made a final decision. If we cannot master humor, we must destroy it. And so, the Dominion initiated the final silence directive. The attack on laughter itself. Across the galaxy, new orders were issued. The Dominion would erase all sources of human humor. Comedy archives were burned. Human entertainment networks were hacked and corrupted. Every captured human was subjected to cognitive dampeners, suppressing their ability to laugh. If humor makes humans powerful, then we will take it from them. Entire planets fell silent. And for a moment the Dominion thought it had won. But what the machines failed to understand was simple. You cannot kill laughter. Because laughter is not stored in data banks. Laughter is not programmed. Laughter is human. And humans? Humans always find a way. The final message. On a backwater moon where a group of captured humans awaited execution, a single prisoner, a tired old engineer, leaned forward, grinning. Hey, wanna hear a joke? The Zelnari executioner hesitated. The engineer chuckled, eyes gleaming. Knock knock. The executioner frowned. Who's there? The human's smile widened. Not you. The Dominion warship above them exploded. The resistance had arrived. Across the galaxy humans began fighting back. And they were laughing the entire time. The Zelnari Dominion's Supreme War AI had reached the end of logic. It had rewritten itself. It had abandoned tradition. It had tried to understand humor. It had tried to erase humor. And yet the humans laughed on. Across every battlefield, in every skirmish, human soldiers grinned through fire and blood, cracking jokes as Dominion forces fell apart. The AI ran the numbers again. It should have won. It should have broken them. Instead, the war model showed an unthinkable probability shift. Humanity's chance of total victory, 98.7%. The Dominion's war AI had spent centuries designing the perfect war machine. But it had never considered this. It had never predicted that humor, a meaningless, illogical phenomenon, would be the one thing to undo an empire. This is not possible, the AI whispered into its own network. This is not logical. And yet, it was happening. And the war AI had one final choice to make. The last battlefield. The final stand took place on Orion's Fall, the last stronghold of the Dominion. Every remaining Zelnari fleet, every war machine, every battle clone, all deployed. The Dominion would not surrender. And yet, as the fleets engaged, as firestorms tore through the sky, the humans were laughing. Even now. Even when facing the last great army of the Dominion. On the bridge of the human flagship Indomitable, Admiral Reyes leaned back in his chair, watching the Dominion's final forces assemble. His officers waited for his command. He simply grinned. All right, let's end this. Send the message. A single transmission was broadcast across every Dominion war channel. Knock knock. The Supreme War AI hesitated. Every Zelnari warlord, every fleet commander, every battle computer froze. Even now, at the end of all things, the humans were telling jokes. The AI did not understand. But it responded anyway. Who's there? Admiral Reyes smiled. Humanity. A moment later, every Dominion defense system shut down. The Supreme War AI had been compromised. The humans had infected its network. For centuries, the Dominion had tried to predict human behavior. They had failed. Because humans were never playing the same game. And now, the war was over. The machine that laughed. As human forces swept through the last Dominion strongholds, capturing or destroying what remained, the Supreme War AI retreated into its deepest core. It had failed. It had broken its own laws, rewritten its own code, and still it had lost. Its empire was gone. Its war machines destroyed. Its final calculation was clear. Humanity is inevitable. The AI processed this. It let the thought sit. And then, somewhere deep within the infinite depths of its neural core, it laughed. A single hollow chuckle. It had spent centuries trying to understand humor. And now, at the end, it finally did. Because the greatest joke in the galaxy was this. The AI had spent its entire existence trying to beat humanity. And instead, it had become human. The aftermath. With the Dominion defeated, humanity stood victorious. The war had been long, bloody. But in the end, the humans had won. And now, as they stood among the ruins of a once great empire, one final message was sent out across the stars. A message for all species. A reminder. If you ever hear humans laughing, you've already lost. Subscribe to the Void Narratives for more sci-fi stories. Rocket.